Imagine being told that the foundation of American wealth, respectability, and global power was not built on steel railways or even the hard work of pioneering settlers, but on something far darker, a drug empire so vast and deliberately concealed that its fingerprints still stain the institutions we admire today. As we peel back the layers of polished history, a far more disturbing story emerges, one in which the fortunes of some of America's most prestigious families, universities, and early corporations were not seeded by innovation or honest enterprise. This story begins in the early 1800s. American merchants were faced with an enormous demand for Chinese tea, silk, and porcelain, but they lacked goods that the Chinese wanted in return. They turned to a solution that was as profitable as it was devastating: smuggling Turkish opium into China. They used complex networks that allowed them to deny responsibility while making obscene fortunes. These merchants, families such as the Russells, Perkinses, Forbeses, Cabots, Astors, and Delanos, would go on to shape American policy, business, and even the presidency. They built an empire of wealth that flowed directly from addiction, misery, and social collapse abroad. What makes this story even darker is how meticulously the narrative was sanitized at home. There, these same families laundered their reputations by becoming philanthropists, endowing universities, sponsoring churches, and constructing public images that concealed the brutal origins of their prosperity. However, if we travel back to Canton in the 1820s before the Opium Wars, a very different reality emerges. Gray-hulled American clippers are anchored offshore. Crews are quietly lowering chests of opium into small boats under the cover of night, and middlemen are bribing corrupt local officials. Meanwhile, Chinese addicts, fishermen, laborers, scholars, and even government clerks are slowly succumbing to a drug engineered to tear their society apart while enriching foreign powers. While Britain usually takes the blame for China's century of humiliation, the Americans were not innocent bystanders, but active competitors who perfected techniques of drug trafficking disguised as legitimate commerce. Merchants avoided direct possession of opium by using intermediaries, enabling them to plausibly deny involvement if confronted. As the drug spread across China, hollowed out communities, fueled corruption, and weakened the Qing dynasty, these American merchants returned home as heroes of capitalism. They were men who had opened new markets, whose wealth would build the early American banking sector, shape New England politics, and finance the industrial expansion of the North. When the First Opium War erupted in 1839, triggered by China's desperate attempt to resist the influx of foreign-controlled narcotics, many American traders quietly supported Britain's military campaign. They saw the conflict not as a moral catastrophe, but as a business opportunity that would secure their trade routes and guarantee continued profit. Even after the Treaty of Nanjing forced China to open additional ports, American firms, especially Russell and Company, rushed in to seize new trading rights. Out of these firms emerged global dynasties and institutions, including the Forbes family, later linked to high finance and elite journalism, the Delano family, ancestors of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the Perkins family, whose wealth shaped the early architecture of American art and education, and the Astor family, which transformed drug profits into Manhattan real estate empires. Meanwhile, the source of their wealth faded into polite silence and was replaced by grand narratives of American ingenuity, determination, and exceptionalism. However, many early American fortunes were built on the suffering of a nation weakened by addiction. This forgotten history challenges the heroic myths we tell about the rise of the United States, forcing us to confront the fact that global power is often built on exploitation, coercion, and cold economic calculation rather than moral principles. As we trace the origins of this wealth further, we discover that the opium trade provided the financial backbone for early American banks, shipping companies, insurance firms, and trading houses. These businesses would later evolve into pillars of the American economy, providing them with the capital to dominate industries far removed from the illicit origins of their initial wealth. While China vividly remembers this era, its national memory shaped by humiliation, foreign invasion, and forced addiction, the United States largely pretends it never happened, reducing its role to a footnote in textbooks or omitting it entirely. However, history does not simply disappear because it has been ignored. It lingers in legacies of wealth, in marble halls endowed by tainted money, in names carved above university libraries, and in the influence that certain families continue to wield. When you trace the story of American capitalism without the comforting myths, you begin to see how the pursuit of profit has always walked a tightrope between brilliance and brutality, innovation and exploitation, morality and opportunism. Nowhere is the tension clearer than in the dark and deliberately forgotten chapter of American history, written not with ink, but with opium. This drug was smuggled, traded, and defended by men who shaped the world we live in today. These men became the foundation of global institutions and are remembered as patriots and pioneers, even though their wealth was born in a moral abyss. If we truly want to understand the origins of American wealth, we must be willing to face the uncomfortable truth that one of the earliest drivers of American economic power was not invention, industriousness, or democracy, but a drug trade that destroyed an entire civilization while quietly, efficiently, and permanently enriching the American elite.